Hi guys, this is ghib.ojisan. I'm originally from Japan, now living happily in our HDB with my wifey and my cute baby. So this will be a chill video where I will be reflecting on my life in Singapore. I usually do it annually, but I haven't done one in a while, so yeah, here it is. Firstly, I would like to talk about first year versus now. So first few years was the honeymoon phase when everything seemed new and refreshing to me. I remember one of the first culture shock was the bus driver. She was an auntie. She asked where I got my kickboard, because at that time I was commuting with my kickboard, and this doesn't really happen in Japan, you know. A bus driver don't talk to people. That has nothing to do with work. Oh, by the way, my baby loves the remote controller for some reason, so apologies about my wiggly movement over here. Fast forward 6 years now, you know, I don't get those type of culture shock. It has become my home, you know. I feel so relieved when I touch down from travel. You know, when I arrive to Changi, I feel like finally home. Alright, biggest pro of living in Singapore. What do you think I will say, wifey?
Delicious food. Alright?
I'm not a superficial person like that, you know. I like to go deep lah. It is the stability. Deep, right?
I never hear you talk about this before. It's always like, wow, very nice lah. This one very nice.
Hey, can you stop exposing me? Yeah. Some Singaporeans might say it's boring, you know, because the weather doesn't change, life seems routine, and nothing dramatic happens. But for me, I feel like stability is something Singaporeans don't appreciate enough. Again, I'm from Japan. I experienced the 311 Tohoku massive earthquake. I experienced typhoons in Japan. But in Singapore, nothing happens. And that is the beauty. I love it. It's so stable. I feel so safe here. Life is great. And for me, that is the biggest pro of living in Singapore. Do you want a counter statement as a Singaporean?
Actually, I agree. That's why I love my country.
Oh, nice. Next up, why complaining is a national sport. They say like complaining is a national sport in Singapore, right? Jokingly.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah. And I have this Nobel Prize worthy thesis.
What?
Singaporeans complain because it works. And okay, here is what I observed, right? In Singapore, you can personally text MP if something happens. I mean, of course, there's a question if it's really the MP's WhatsApp. Probably not, but I mean, you can like, you can complain directly to the government. You can complain to the police, you can complain to anyone. So people are flexible and efficient in Singapore. That's why people complain. They know it works. But in Japan, okay, do you think complaining works? Of course, sometimes, but most of the time, no, because we are not flexible. For example, like, at 2 a.m., no cars, and if the pedestrian traffic light is red, most people will not walk. No cars. Again, 2 a.m., no cars. Very small road. Japanese will obey. They are not flexible. They don't really think, you know, they want to obey the law. Which is good and bad, of course, but most Singaporeans, I think they will just, no car la, go la, right? So that's the difference. Japanese are not flexible. Complaining doesn't really work in Japan. That's why we Japanese, we like to say shoganai. It means it can't be helped. You always hear me say, right? Shoganai. Next up, Singapore is safer than Japan, in my opinion. You know, like I used to think, you know, the safety level in Japan versus Singapore is almost the same. Both very safe, but...
Except for Yishun.
Are you gonna really do this? I'm gonna get hate comments from Yishunites, right?
Yishun.
Do you know there are so many scary people in Japan? You know, like I even like accidentally bumped into someone. Then I say sorry and I walk. Then the guy come from behind and grab me and say, you wanna get killed?
Hey, it happened?
It happened.
When?
In Tokyo. I was so darn scared, yeah. And he's so muscular and it's like, whoa. And you see a lot of these scary looking people, but in Singapore, a lot of the people are very, you know, soft and they look very kind like, you know, there's no scary people like in Japan. I also got chased by a car by overtaking a car with my bicycle. I think they saw it was disrespectful and I think it was a gang member. And nothing like that happened in Singapore so far.
Singapore also have lah. You see those videos of people fighting in the train, like, hey, see what see? Oh, you want me to punch you?
God?
Got lah.
Sometimes lah, but I'm saying like, from my experience, Japan got more of these, and also like, of course, again, natural disaster, Japan has many, Singapore zero. And I think it feels safer for me in Singapore because there are harsher penalties. So the West often criticize the harsh penalties and caning and all that, but for an obedient person, I feel safe. So remember this news? There was a Japanese stylist, he sexually assaulted a Singaporean and he got jailed. He was sentenced to 17.5 years in prison and 20 strokes of the cane. And the news actually reached Japanese media as well. And so many people commented that Japan should have similar penalties because it seems much more lax in Japan. So I asked ChatGPT what the sentence will be like in Japan if the same thing happened. And it said in Japan it will be max 5 years in prison. Only 5 years! So that sounds very lax compared to Singapore. So the harsh penalties, I think it works, it keeps the country feel safe. Any opinions on that? You want to add on something as a Singaporean?
Yeah, for sure. And we have a lot of like fines and laws to deter all these activities.
So what do you think as a Singaporean when the West criticized the caning and the harsh penalties? You can get a death sentence for trafficking drug.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, of course, for them to share their point of view because basically it's different, different laws for different cultural contexts, I guess. To them it's very unacceptable, but maybe in an Asian context, punishment must be strong enough to, in the first place, deter people from doing all these things in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a different approach. So they can say that, it's harsh, but it's relative to their own context.
They have to know that it's working in
their society, maybe it doesn't work.
Yeah, true.
In our society, it works.
And maybe they should learn from us, This is how you keep the nation safe.
Yeah, some actually respect what we do, but of course, I think majority of them, they say like it's against like human rights and whatever.
Yeah, it's an interesting point actually. But again, if you're obedient, if you're calm, you're not like rebellious, I feel like better, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of safety, when I'm online, I also think about protecting myself. And that's why I use Surfshark VPN.
Wow, so smooth.
With Surfshark, your personal data is encrypted so you can browse internet safely even when using the public Wi-Fi. You might be thinking, public Wi-Fi is so risky, May? The answer is yes, because public Wi-Fis often have weak security. Hackers and trackers can steal your important information like passwords. Heck, even iPhone tells you that you have weak security when you're connecting to these Wi-Fi. So what I always do is to connect to Surfshark VPN when using public Wi-Fis at the cafe, airport, and library. That way I can browse, shop, and stream with peace of mind knowing I am protected. With Surfshark, even flights and train tickets can cost less. Some sites show you different prices depending on your country. And using a VPN can actually help you get a better deal because it lets you change your virtual location. Surfshark also provides 24/7 customer service and 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's really no risk for you to try it out. So if you're interested, go to surfshark.com/ghib.ojisan for 4 extra free months of Surfshark. It's an app I've been personally using for over 3 years, so definitely check it out. Thank you, Surfshark, for sponsoring this segment. Next up, living in an HDB is amazing. I wanted to bring this up because it seems like a lot of netizens are complaining that they are, being packed in small, tiny apartments in Singapore. But for a person like me coming from Japan, I feel like it's more than enough. It's actually bigger than most apartments in Tokyo and Osaka.
Yeah,
typical
true.
HDB. And I think some people don't know that even in Europe, if you're living in big cities like Paris, London, you are living in a tiny apartment. So this is not bad, But of course got small complaints. What are the typical ones? Don't have, right?
No, don't have.
I mean, of course, some neighbors maybe, not us. Our neighbors are perfect, but
Neighbors are not like a HDB problem. If you can stay in
Anywhere.
condo, you may have bad neighbors also.
So that's why I'm not really thinking of upgrading. Singaporeans like to upgrade to a condo, but there's a risk lah. You don't know who's gonna be a neighbor, right?
Yeah, that one is anywhere
often it's smaller, the rooms.
Yeah, smaller for the same price of, obviously.
Or more expensive. Yeah. So our neighbors are really good. We have no big issues, so I don't feel like risking that. But there's an exception. If it's a good investment, why not? Moving to a condo.
Of course.
But I'm not a professional in this field, so let me know, is it still worth it to upgrade in 2025? Let me know. Okay, next. Thank you for being strong, SGD. So when I first came here in 2019, JPY was actually stronger. I think many of you even forgot, So when I go back to Japan, it felt like, wow, Japan not cheap, But now, fast forward in 2025, SGD so strong. I keep on saying cheap in Japan, I think people hate me. But that's because, my wifey also say cheap. Can you stop doing that?
Cheap and better quality groceries like fish, vegetables, meat.
Yeah, the quality is really, especially the vegetables.
Even restaurants.
Yeah. This is something I really love about Japan. It's affordable and good quality.
I think your dad says, things are too cheap in Japan, they should increase their price.
But then if they do that, the Japanese will suffer. They can't.
Domestic people lah.
Because their salary never went up for 30 years.
True.
Crazy,
Yeah,
right? 30 years, never
it's
go
terrible.
up. And tax go up. So it's really like, it's an amazing thing that Singapore is developing economically. You know, it's really a crazy feat. This small nation becomes so strong. It's really amazing, and I think we have to appreciate this more. But wealth divide feels harsh. So this is something I observed, that the wealth divide, it's very harsh in Singapore. Some people, they live very humbly in HDBs. Then next door there's a freaking tall condo. They have BMW. They spend so much money. Of course, Japan also have this, but the wealth divide is much greater in Singapore. And I mean, of course, this is good and bad. The good is that capable people can earn more in Singapore. Do you know why?
Why?
One reason is that because in Japan, it's very difficult to fire somebody. So picture a middle-aged guy. He earns like 50K a year, which is good money, right? But he's not doing anything. He's tired, he has no energy, he just goes there, do nothing.
Singapore also got lah.
But in Singapore, they can fire easily. Easier than
easier,
Japan.
yeah.
In Japan, it's very difficult to fire. The employees, the workers are protected by law. So what they do is that in Japan, like a lot of the many big companies, right, they will have a department that doesn't really do anything. So they will send these people over there, and the company will hope, they will wish that they will quit someday because they are not given any work. They just go there, do nothing. This really exists, you know? So the company wants them to quit instead of firing, because firing is too difficult. So because there are so many of these employees, it's difficult to raise the capable employees' salary, because the company still have to pay for these people, the non-capable one. And this is one reason why Japan feels like there's less wealth divide. Everybody is kind of like similar, you know? Whereas in Singapore, there's super rich, super poor, somewhere in the middle and all that. So naturally, being rich is more motivating in Singapore. Picture somebody earning 100K Singapore dollars in a year. Do you know the tax deduction in Singapore? It's 7.5% only. So your take-home pay is 92,500 Singapore dollars, according to ChatGPT. So sorry if it's wrong, it's his fault if it's wrong. But in Japan, the tax rate is 28%. So your take-home pay is 72,000 Singapore dollars. And the tax rate is even more when you're earning more, like $1 million. In Singapore, your take-home pay is 800,000, while in Japan, your take-home is 500,000. So essentially 50% is gone in Japan if you're earning a lot.
That's crazy.
Crazy, right? That's why you see a lot of rich people, they want to move to Singapore. But of course, life isn't always about earning money, right? Some people, they choose to live in Japan because they like the culture, the food, the lifestyle. But I also know many rich who choose to move to Singapore because they want to save money. They don't want to pay so much tax. And I think it depends on what you prioritize. Next up, Singaporeans are difficult to describe. Do you have this issue, like, it's difficult to say Singaporeans are like this because it's so diverse. Japan, like, we are like, you can say like we're humble, we're polite. How would you describe
I mean,
Singaporeans?
Japanese people are a bit more unique lah, in a way to describe.
Because it's really a homogeneous society.
As there's an external image and an internal image. External image is more obvious, more homogeneous. Whereas, I mean, in Singapore, people tend to maybe not hide so much. So that's why you're able to see like more variety of personalities.
But then the problem is, isn't it difficult to find like a common ground, like a common value?
Can.
And I think the government is trying really hard to do this. You know, that's why they have the National Day Parade. Every year, they want to unite Singaporeans to make the nation stronger.
I mean,
Japan, we don't have this. We don't have to do it.
maybe because maybe my circle is not so big, but it's not that difficult to like describe Singaporeans lah.
How would you describe them? It's difficult lah.
Most people are quite
See, it's so difficult. For example, when I used to think, oh, kiasu is like a common thing, right? But then I noticed it also depends on the background. If you're Malay, Indian, I think it's slightly less. Kiasu more Chinese, right? Don't you think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Am I not allowed to say this?
No, I'm Chinese. I can
right?
I agree with you lah.
So like when I say, oh, Singapore is a kiasu, it actually might not apply to Malay, Indian, of course, even to some Chinese lah. So it's
Chinese
very
tend to be
difficult.
more kiasu.
So very diverse, you know, Malay, Chinese, Indian, even new citizens, PRs, like
Eurasians, all
it's
that.
all like everybody different. Next up, being a foreigner in Japan versus Singapore. So this topic is quite interesting because applied for PR and got it like 2 years ago. I definitely feel being more part of the country because I get direct benefits like being subsidized for hospital, free museum access and all that. And I thought it's interesting how it's different from Japan. So in Japan, did you know that even as a foreigner, you are part of the national healthcare system? Meaning you also get the same coverage as locals. So 70% subsidized, we only need to pay 30%.
Foreigner as in, how about tourists?
No, I mean people living there. But in Singapore, unless you are PR or citizen, there is no national coverage. So you'll need a private insurance or employee coverage. And it really shows how different the two countries view integration. Japan puts everybody in the same system, while Singapore, we divide foreigners versus citizens and PRs. And I think it's working for Singapore, because Singapore, everybody wants to live here. Singapore is in a strong position. They don't need to provide all these coverages.
No, also because you need to show you are taking care of your own citizens first.
Correct. So that's why some Japanese feel it's unfair that why is the government paying for these foreigners? So I think it's okay. Singapore don't need to provide all these because people will still come here because of the high pay, great safety, and the difference is personally quite interesting for me. And there is a debate in Japan that why does the government have to subsidize for foreigners as well? Can it be like Singapore? Let me know your thoughts. And lastly, importance of having your own value. I feel like so many people are chasing money, in Singapore. Money is the most important. And because the value is so strong, it feels like, I have to also chase money. But in Japan, it's very different. A lot of people who don't really care about money, they can live in the suburbs and become a farmer, become a fisherman and all that. I know Singapore is such a small country and there's no suburbs, so it's impossible. So we are kind of essentially forced to earn money, get high pay.
Maybe there's a pressure.
There is pressure, right?
Yeah, they say these days everyone has a degree. And then when you have a degree, what do you have to do with it? You have to make use of it. If you have a degree and you become a farmer or you do whatever other things that is not traditional, people will see it as a waste. Hey, why like that? Cannot,
Some people want to live a slow lifestyle. Then they have to move to Australia and all that, right?
Exactly.
So that's a difficulty, right? Singapore itself does not have the option, really. So I feel like that's one of the cons. Maybe if you're not really into money
For sure.
There's another point I want to make is that do you really need that much money in Singapore? If you're living in an HDB, no car, no pet.
Depends if you have kids, you need certain level
Really?
of
But
income.
HDB if you're already paying your HDB, if the mortgage is finished, no car, don't need too much money, right?
Yeah, of course lah. It just depends on what you want, what kind of life you want to have.
Also, I feel like
Higher standards.
too many people use social media in Singapore, so that's why they compare
Their influence
with their friends, their influencers. I have friends in Japan who deliberately choose not to use social media because they know the downside of it.
It gets very annoying lah, to be honest.
But it's difficult to quit, right?
You just choose the type of influencer you follow, then it's alright.
Not just influencer, like your friends are. You naturally compare, right?
Yeah. So choose your friends
they
wisely.
go to Thailand, stay at such a nice hotel. Then you feel like, I want to stay like you.
No, it's nice once in a while.
No, I mean not hotel for you. You look at the nice restaurant.
Yeah
and you want to
lah,
go.
I go for the food lah.
Sorry, baby's becoming fuzzy, so that is it. Let me know your thoughts. Do you love living in Singapore? What do you love about here? What do you not like about here? I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to check out Surfshark. It's a really great app. Anything you want to add?
I love Singapore.
Me too. I love Singapore. Goodbye.
Bye.